Hello, and welcome back to Coaching with Impact, the go-to podcast for female coaches ready to elevate their coaching business and make a lasting impact. I am your host, Fifa Tran, and I own Fame Modern Creative, helping diverse female coaches shine with confidence through an elevated online presence using web design and holistic brand strategy. So today we have an incredible guest. I appreciate you for your time today. We are going to be talking about a lot of things today, so I'm excited to have you here, Natalie.
Yay, I'm excited too. Can't wait to dive in.
Today, we're going to be talking about visual brand storytelling. Super crucial in your whole brand strategy and everything. We're going to really be tuning into this topic. But what better person to have than you here, who has been in the game for a while now. So I'm really excited to hear more about your story and like your journey in starting your business. Like what led you down to this path?
Ooh, I love this question. Okay, so I never expected to be where I am today. And originally, I had worked in the corporate environment at the banks doing project management for technology and web development projects, which is probably why I love talking to you
Oh,
so
wow.
much. It's that online space that just draws me all the time. So I did that. I was working at the banks for about 17 years. And I always did some creative stuff on the side, even when I was on the job. Like I would help to plan different events at work, anything that was creative related. And then I found that when I had kids, my time at work became a little bit more limited because I couldn't stay as long, like overtime all the time. And then during my maternity leave, I started to feel this nudge and this call towards fulfilling that creative side. So when I had my second, it really called to me. I did go back to work at the bank. And by then I was running both the photography business, which I had started when my daughter was born while I was on mat leave, and then working at the bank. So I was doing both. And then I worked with a coach who, like a business coach, who then helped me figure out my exit strategy, my plan to really follow my calling, which was to start a photography business because I really wanted to be closer to the customer and make more of an impact.
I love that. Yeah, it's like it's cool that you worked with a coach and you've been working with different coaches throughout your journey as well. So you've
Yes,
kind of started to build more experience on how they work as well and like, building your
absolutely.
business in the long term. I love that. And
Yeah.
so like you built your photography business. You're how many years in now?
I'm 8 years in.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
8 years.
Yeah.
So I know you talk a lot about visual brand storytelling. Now,
Yes.
for those in the audience that don't know exactly what this entails, can you kind of explain it to us a little bit better and like why it's so important for coaches specifically to use this to attract their dream clients?
Yes, of course. So, visual storytelling is really an enhanced way of describing the impact that photography can make on your business. Because photos, visuals, even art, if you're looking at an art gallery, like the sole purpose of it all is to elicit some sort of emotion through, if it's just art, that's paint, that's through the colors. If it's through pictures, and it's through the like actions, like what is being told in that story. So for businesses, it's really effective for marketing purposes and for
Mhm.
building connection and trust to be able to visually tell a story of who you are and how it looks like to work with you. So I really believe that through the power of like photography, it can create that visual storyboard that people can tap into, which will then lead to more conversions and you making a greater impact and showcasing yourself.
Yeah, I can definitely say it does make a huge difference, like especially because I build websites and I'm always asking for the client for photos and
Yeah.
visuals. And what a dramatic difference it can make if you have like the right photos, like projecting you as a coach and how you show up instead of just using like stock imagery, right? Like images that
Yeah.
anybody can take on the internet and just put it on
Hmm.
their website.
Yeah.
So like you said, like I really love the fact that you emphasized like building that that connection with their audience. Um, what would you say are like some key elements that make up a compelling visual brand story for a coach?
Okay, so I love this. There's always some core story buckets that I like to include in every single session. And I feel that it's just like the kind of foundation that everyone should have. So, number one, obviously, is the headshot because you want to showcase exactly who you are, what you look like. So, we all need some sort of headshot or mugshot, no matter what situation we're in. People want to know who you are. And that's how they kind of connect the dots. I'm like, okay, that's the person and they're associated with XYZ. So the headshot's really important because it also showcases that you're taking yourself seriously and investing in yourself when you have that professional put together headshot. And then from there, we go deeper into unraveling these story buckets. So the next piece is, okay, what do you do? So if you're a coach, you'll want some lifestyle images of you in a kind of work setting. So depending on what type of coach you are, maybe it's like at a desk, and then you have some props that will further tell the story of what you do. So if you're a coach that is in the wellness industry, perhaps you have some green smoothies and shakes on your desk, and the way that you're dressing is a little bit more sporty or business casual, versus someone who's a business coach. They might, depending on what your personality is, maybe you're wearing a colorful suit, or you do a lot of virtual consultations. So you will be on your laptop, and you also do podcasting. So you have a podcast mic, and we go on and on and on to really unravel, like, who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? So the who do you serve, I love to provide the suggestion to, you can bring in a model, which can be your friend or your favorite client, to pose as a representation of who you want to attract. Because when your ideal client sees such imagery, they can see themselves in it, right? They're trying to get like this feeling of, how does it look like to work with that person? I wonder what their personality is. Can I trust them? Is it worth the investment? And once they start making that connection and seeing that imagery over and over, they just start to want to work with you. They feel more and more compelled. And this is not something new. Like, we're not reinventing the wheel. The same theory applies to like children's storybooks. And that's why merchandise such as Peppa Pig merch does so well, because the kids are so fixated on the imagery, the characters, and they want to get to know them more. So the same thing applies with you kind of putting out your storybook. And also the other various expressions that I think is really important is for people to showcase elements of like celebration, and also to be able to share things that are like things that they are good at. So to showcase their expertise by sharing tips openly. So those types of imagery can be, for example, anything it's better than a stock image. It could be just like a marketing image where someone's standing and pointing to one side. And then that leaves room for some graphic design to be applied to showcase all the elements of the tips, or to announce something new that's launching. So it's really getting creative with all the different ways that you can communicate your expertise and what you do.
Oh, I love that you say that it's like a storybook, because it really
Yes.
is. That's what it is. And like, you're using a lot of these images like on your social media, you're using it on your website, using it basically everywhere that you can. And also emphasizing the fact that you do need professional headshots, because like I've seen a lot of people that have come to us, like being an event organizer and having people not having professional headshots also turns you off as a speaker, or as somebody who wants to be a speaker at your event too, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's something that you take into consideration when you're applying to be a speaker, or you're trying to participate in like different events and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I love that you do mention that. um Relating to that question, how often would you say a coach should be updating their headshots and like capturing new photos for their brand?
Yeah. Okay. So for headshots, this is like, it kind of depends type of answer, because I would say at least annually would be great, because also we want to kind of imagine that we are constantly evolving and promoting ourselves, right? So with that new job, the new elevated state of self, we also want to align that with our new headshot so that that same energy carries forward. That's number one. But number two, if you have any sort of physical changes to your appearance, obviously get a new headshot, right? If you start to feel tired of your headshot, then that's also another sign. And then if you're someone who's very visible, so a lot of coaches will do a ton of speaking, podcasting, and collaborations. Chances are that your headshot's been seen and heard like everywhere. It's been distributed. People keep seeing it. So why not have a refreshed headshot? And then another opportunity is there's some coaches who launch all the time. Like maybe they're launching a new program every quarter or whatnot. A really great strategy to give a fresh like look to your launch and your content for both your website and social media is to get a new batch of images in perhaps a slightly different color palette of an outfit.
Yeah, because like that's definitely one thing that has I've been thinking about, because like in terms of headshots, I thought it would be okay, you take one headshot and then after a couple of years later you take another couple
Yeah.
of shots of like different photos. So like I will say that I'm a bit guilty of that, where I don't update it enough, and then people
Yeah.
look at your old images and they're like, that's her hair is different. This is the same person I'm talking to right now. So yeah, definitely emphasizing on the frequency in how you're updating. But I love the fact that you mentioned as you are upgrading yourself every year and elevating yourself, it is a true reflection of how you show up online by just updating your photos every so often.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and I know a lot of different coaches that are launching all of the time. So like when
Hmm.
they're putting out like new sales pages and whatnot, they want new images to represent what type of program that they're running too, right?
Yes. And it
Yeah.
also creates some visual interest because people are like, oh my gosh, is this something new? Like it could literally be the same thing that you're launching every month.
Yeah.
But because you're changing up the visuals, then it kind of feels like, oh my gosh, I have to jump on this. It's something different and new, just like,
It's true.
yeah, like
You're
why
just like
not?
refreshing your brand every so often, making things like not the same all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So in that sense, like if you're updating your clients like photos every so often, like is there like a package that you offer usually that allows you to work with a client on a retainer basis? Is that something that you do or have thought about doing?
Yeah, so I find okay, so with this, I identified that people were coming a couple times a year or every other quarter or maybe every year but the same quarter. So then I do offer a quarterly brand refresh.
Okay.
And this is really a curated day. Like it's a curated experience where each person gets their own dedicated hour, but I will curate the date, time, location. So location, I always pick really elevated spots that are versatile. So it'll have like the like desk, the couch, and lifestyle spaces to shoot in, but it's just very well appointed. So then that I feel aligns with most like industries, and it's a very CEO type vibe. And then I always pick a different location as well so that people can kind of have like a different setting, but kind of similar vibe. And then they just kind of show up and bring some props and their outfits. They can add like hair and makeup as well. And then from there, within a couple of weeks, they have a batch of images that they can use for like the next couple quarters.
So if there's let's say um if there's somebody, I'm sure you've worked with a lot of different people that don't know how to pose as well. Is
Hmm.
that something you also help with?
Yes, totally. I 100% give posing direction. I also get my own photos done. So I have practiced. I love the guidance. I appreciate it so much. Like I purely study posing. And then also if I'm doing a VIP shoot, which is a bit longer, then we will go through like more story buckets. Because for the brand refresh that's quarterly, that's like an hour. So we'll go through some of the more versatile generic story buckets. But yeah, and then like with that, everyone gets posing guidance. And then we also will do an exploratory process of going through like Pinterest and gathering the visual inspiration so that I can get a sense, because everyone has a different style,
Yeah.
right? So I'm not doing like cookie cutter. I
Mhm.
really want to get a sense of like, what is the style that this person has? And then really leaning into it and helping to direct and guide them on that day.
So there's like a whole entire process that you do to really curate different experiences with your clients. It's not just like, okay, these are like a certain number of poses that we're going to do. We're just going to, have these photos and that's it. It's like you go through everything with them step by step, understand their brand and
Yeah.
figure out like what are some photos that truly represent them and like showcase their personality and stuff, right?
Yes, totally.
Okay, okay. So that's really good to know. Another question that I had in mind is that um, a lot of the times there may be, I'm sure through your experience as well, you've worked with different types of people who want different outfits in one session. Like, what is a realistic number of outfits that you can get in like one session of, I don't know, like an hour or an hour and a half?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you're speaking to someone who's like a classic overpacker. Like if I travel, I'm overpacking because I'm like, well, what if I want to wear this and that? So the same thing can happen in a photo shoot, but just to give perspective, if you have a lot of outfits, it really does take away from the time and the ability to go deeper in that kind of set, right? Because it's called like flow posing. Like there's a certain flow that photographers will lead clients through, and if you're constantly breaking that flow, then we kind of have to reset, right? So it's better if the flow kind of makes sense. So one of the things that I like to suggest is having like one like one dressy outfit, one business casual outfit, like or casual outfit, and then one like fun and unexpected. So about 3 to 4 outfits. And then from there, some people, especially if they've done a photo shoot before and they've launched and used the photos well, then they will know how they use the photos. Like some people will group a batch of posts by a particular outfit to get that kind of color sequence, and then they'll start moving to the second outfit for the next batch. You know what I mean? So then they're already thinking about the color scheme and the theme that they want and the feel. So that's a little bit more strategic, but otherwise, if like some people would change really quickly, like there's different strategies, but as a base, I suggest for a 1 hour shoot, probably like 2 outfit changes the most, so that you can really focus and get into flow, because also like your hair is going to get messy when you're changing your top, like it's all resetting everything.
Yeah.
Putting that into perspective, for headshots, usually it's the one outfit and then they'll have maybe one outfit change if they so desire. It really depends on why someone's getting a headshot. If they're getting it for a corporate role, then most people are okay with the one outfit and they don't bring another. But other people will bring a second outfit, for example, just so that they have a variety. But yeah, I would suggest something like that, like 3 to 5 the most.
Okay. And when you're like working with somebody to like when you're going through that first process of really trying to see what are the locations that would be best
Yes.
for them to be taking those photos, is that something that you do
Yes.
specifically, not
Yep.
really the client or
Yep, absolutely. For me, I like to really project manage the whole experience. Like that's kind of my wheelhouse, like doing the whole
Mhm.
project execution. So I'll always ask them questions like, what is your vibe? Light and airy, or like dark and moody? Is there a certain elements that you really want? So some people are like, oh, I like the white and airy. Or I like this that you had in some of your photos. Like some people have that sense already when they land on my website of some of the work that I've done, where other people will be like, I would really love some exposed brick or some color, right? So that
Mhm.
in my mind, I'm like, I already, because I've shot in so many locations, what I do is then I'll just keep on asking. And then sometimes even the consult call, I'm like, oh, like, what do you think of this and that? And then immediately people will have a reaction like, ooh, I like that, or like, no. And then I'm like, okay. And then it just helps me, because then I'm like, okay, what about this? What about that? So there, like, it could be anything from studios to sourcing an Airbnb location to perhaps a person wants to work outdoors and because they connect with nature and their audiences, maybe they're a brand that promotes natural, clean beauty and products. they may like want something that's outside in nature. I've done stuff in Graffiti Alley. So, and if clients have their own office space, then I work with them to really transform the space. So whether it's like, especially if it's in someone's home that is occupied, like not a studio, or in someone's office that is occupied, it's really important to declutter as much as possible in the shooting space because everything like shows. And if you look at studio spaces, it's quite minimal.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's cool, and it's good to know that that's something that you do it in their homes as well. But decluttering is definitely one of the things, especially if you're trying to capture the person and you're not trying to have many distractions in the
Yeah,
photo as well.
for sure.
But I love that you emphasize on the minimalism part of it as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would assume that like since you're working with a lot of like different coaches and stuff, like do you often work with a web designer or other people who like stylists and stuff like that to actually come up with the direction of everything?
Yes, I love working in a team. It's so much fun. So with web design, what I really love is that let's say someone is starting their web from scratch, like their website from scratch, and they're looking for photos.
Mhm.
That is the most fun part because we know that they're going to need a batch of images for their header for each of the main pages, right? So what I mean is that they would need images that are like horizontal, maybe feature the person on one side, and then there's a lot of white space, or there's some sort of story being told that's related to the theme of that main page. So planning that out in advance and then knowing what are the other kind of categories or action shots that we need to showcase is totally essential. So that's really getting a mixture of different orientation of images because that's really important for photographers to know. Like nowadays, everyone, like a lot of people are using their images for social media. So then we tend to shoot vertical in those instances. And then you would totally be missing on those key images that would be so effective for like website, LinkedIn banners, maybe it's an Eventbrite banner page. Like there's all these pages that would benefit from like a banner image, but knowing how to shoot that is really important. So I always ask clients like, why, like, where do you plan to use these images? And like, why are you shooting this? You know what I mean? Just so that I have more background. Are you working with anyone? And if I'm not if I'm not directly working with the website designer, I always ask them, can you just ask if there's any preferences or requirements that they're looking for? And that's always incorporated because I put together like a brand showcase playbook for the packages that are like over 90 minutes. And we have a playbook to follow, and everyone knows what's going to happen and what we're going to be capturing. And that really helps everyone on the team, like graphic designers and web developers as well.
Okay, so there's a lot of different things and factors you're considering when you're trying to plan a shoot for a coach or for any other type of person that you're working with. There's like
Yes, for
so many
sure.
steps involved.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really interesting to know. It's not just point and shoot. It's like there's all of these things involved with it. So I know like over the years, like it probably has evolved, like visual brand storytelling has evolved.
Hmm.
Um, mo- Thinking towards the future now, like how do you see the role of visual brand storytelling actually evolving in the next few years, especially for like coaches and entrepreneurs? Like, do you have anything in mind that you think is going to evolve?
Yeah, I feel like, okay, with coaches, especially, coaches, work in groups or one on one. But I feel that continuing to showcase how it looks like to work with you is so important. And then I feel like as coaches grow and evolve, they're oftentimes doing public speaking engagements. So having that media page and having the images that showcase you speaking, teaching, guiding, like being in those leadership positions, like those CEO, kind of like putting on your CEO type hat, and just leaning into that vibration will be really, really good. But that evolves continuously. Even if you're a CEO already, you will continue to grow and evolve. So keep on capturing that evolution because who you serve will also shift as well. So I think that's really important. But also, another trend is that doing something different. Like I recently did color block photos this year. And that's something that even for a VIP shoot, some of my clients would be like, hey, like, I would love to have like a color block photo against some of my core brand colors, and I'll bring that roll and we'll incorporate that into their shoot because it brings that kind of element of visual interest. And it's something that's trending right now in all of the retail shops as well, in terms of using bright, bold colors in some of their marketing. So it's kind of just, seeing what's like, like eye catching because there's so much information online. I just feel that continuously showing up, sharing from the heart is really the best that you can do to differentiate yourself.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that in terms of like stepping into that CEO role and like, getting into that leadership role of like public speaking role, especially coaches. Like I feel like or I've seen a lot of coaches eventually step into that role of speaking.
Yes.
And that's definitely one thing that you have to keep in mind is if you want to amplify your presence and you really want to elevate like just showing up online and like showing up in more places, that's something that you are going to have to consider moving forward. Especially nowadays, like I realize as being an event planner, a lot more people are coming to me now asking for these roles to be able to show up on stage, to be able to be a speaker at an event, right? So before people would be so scared about that, but
Yeah.
I do feel like that times are definitely changing now, and women are stepping into these roles more often.
Yes, totally. And it's all about like what you put out there, you will attract, right? Coaches
Exactly.
are also leaning into leading like retreats that
That's
are,
true.
out
Yeah.
of the city. Maybe they're traveling to Costa Rica. All of that, you want to have some sort of imagery that kind of speaks to that sort of vibe so that you can start talking about it and promoting it and really making all of that come to life. Like your exact vision, you can make it come to life.
So, like, speaking of that, like retreats and stuff, like, have you done like photo shoots at like their
Yeah.
retreat? Okay. Okay.
Yes,
So it's
that
like,
is so powerful. And that's also really fun because it's capturing the action, kind of like event photography, but it's also capturing the attendees. So what we tend to do if it's retreat photography is we will tend to capture the attendees in terms of like a headshot towards the end after they've gone through a lot of the transformative work because then they're like looking relaxed, confident, at ease, and that is great like selling material for the coach. They can then attach a testimonial that the person shares about their experience. And then you have this like relaxed photo of that person as well. And then there's also opportunities where the attendees can upgrade to get their own little mini session on location, depending on where it is. So there's so much opportunity to really, yeah, capture storytelling all around.
oh, that's cool. I love that. I love the whole event space and like capturing these images with like, potential clients, like spaces that you're in, that your clients will be in are like the best places to have these types of images that you
Yes.
on social media and everything. So I love that we talked about this too. Event photography, headshots, and like lifestyle photos. Honestly, there's so many different types of photos that you can capture for your brand, but
Yeah.
it's all a matter of working with the right person, right? And with somebody like you who helps with like posing, who helps source the actual place and like figuring out the whole brand direction is something that really differentiates you from other photographers out there.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I love it so much.
I love that. Okay, I love this conversation we're having right here. I mean, we dove into a lot of different things, but I would love to hear more about like what exciting things that you have coming up and what you're working on.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I have quarterly brand refresh sessions that happen once a quarter, and those are always fun. So I love promoting those because every quarter is at a different location. So definitely look out for that. And then for headshots, there's always an opportunity monthly that I will offer as well. So people can just kind of look on the calendar and see what's coming up and just book themselves in. And I find that that's really helpful because sometimes the whole indecision can come from picking a date.
That's true.
Like, I don't know, should I do it this day, that day? I don't know. Maybe a Friday's better. It's like, but then I have to move around this. I don't know. So just, I will curate and pick a day for you. I usually pick middle of the week, so it's not infringing on like long weekends, or your Friday lunches or whatever that you have to meet up with people, or your own me time. But yeah, just looking to see what's coming up. I find that it's such a great opportunity. And then also because it's a curated day that's back to back, you will oftentimes bump into someone that like someone new that you will meet. So it's almost like a mini networking opportunity. So that's always fun. And then every quarter or so, I also host a networking and connection event called Embrace. So this is something that has become a new pride and joy, and I just really enjoy it. It's really just a facilitated networking and connection experience where people can meet one another, and it removes that kind of uncomfortable ick of going to an event and not knowing anyone, because the sole purpose is to help people connect on a deeper level. So with each other, and also there's different activations for people to learn how to tap into their own kind of inner knowing and their inner selves, so that they can, bring that forward.
Oh, I love your events, honestly. Like I've been to two of them, and I've had fun every time.
Yay!
Especially knowing like you're an introvert and I'm like an introvert. I'm
Yeah.
like, from an introvert's perspective.
Yeah. I was so happy
Well,
when you came. It took me a while to like convince you, and I'm like, yes, she's coming.
yeah, I'm so glad I went because we finally got to meet each other in person.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
and also like this is like one last question, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to end the conversation here. But while you were talking about like how you place like or figure out a certain date
Hmm.
on when people feel ready to like show up and have these new shots, like one thought came up for me was that the reason for me not doing enough headshots is because, and I know like a lot of people might have the same idea, where it's like, oh, I want to look a certain way before I show up and have headshots. Like I want my hair to be perfect, or I want I want to have a certain weight before I show up. Like, what is your advice for people like that who are kind of like overthinking things a little bit?
Yes. Okay. I can relate to this because this is what I lived through for so long. Like when I
Mm,
first started my business, I actually didn't show up as a face of my business at all. I only showcased my client images. So no one really knew who was behind the camera, and like I was going through the same things. Like I just had kids. I don't feel like I'm at my best weight. People don't really need to see me. They just need to see the outcome, like the work, right? But
mm,
then I'm like just the same as like I'm not really differentiating myself. And then I found that when I started to showcase who I was and just showing up, there was this genuine interest. Like people were interested in getting to know me better. And it wasn't even about what I was wearing or what I look like. They just wanted to know a little bit more about how I work and my personality, like my interests, how I think. And then I tell my clients all the time, because this is a most common worry for everyone, and we carry it through. Even the most confident people will be worried about how they look like, is
mhm,
that with the visual storytelling and the photography, honestly, like the main point is to capture the essence of who you are and what you're doing from the heart, because people will feel that energy. People will feel that authenticity. They will feel that alignment. So if you are trying to be someone that you're not in your photo shoot, or if you're feeling off, insecure, like that can be felt. You know what I mean? So it's really important to just embrace who you are at any given moment. Just know that people love you for who you are. And you know what I mean? Like they want your light and your skill set to help them. Like people most of the times are thinking about themselves, to be honest. They're not like, I'm picking her because she has like the most amazing body. They're thinking like, I'm picking her because I know that she can help me, and help me better my life, my business, or whatever. Like that's what they want to know. Like what can she do, or like he or she do that can make my life easier. It's not like she looks good, so then it's gonna make my life easier. You know what I mean? Like how like that already doesn't make sense. So just shifting out of that, and that's why, and just know that we are all meant to grow and evolve constantly. And we're just, you know what I mean? So yeah, like everyone is beautiful the way that they are, and just going with that. There's no need to wait, because you can just get photos later. Like, just do it now. You can get it again. Like, this is not like forever. These photos aren't going to be like the only thing that you're going to get for the rest of your lives.
Yeah, that's true. Gold advice there. A lot of the times we're just overthinking in our heads,
Yeah.
but it's also like it's your job as a photographer to really bring out the best of you, right? And to
Yeah.
really capture your brand essence and all that stuff. So I love your advice on this. Like, it was something that just came up, and I'm like, oh, I'm sure other people have this worry as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. For sure. This is like the like number one worry, for sure. Absolutely.
okay. So definitely keep that in mind, and yeah, just get a great photographer like Natalie or anybody within your space that can capture that part of you that really amplifies you as a coach.
Yes.
So I'm really happy with our conversation today. Like, I learned so much, and I always learn so much when I speak to you. So
Yay, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful that you had me on. This is just such an amazing, yeah, it just feels so good to just talk about this.
and I'm sure like a lot of people would want to connect with you as well. So where can people find you?
Yeah, so I hang out on LinkedIn and Instagram. So LinkedIn is my name, so Nathalie Amlani, and then Instagram I go by Pictonat Branding Creative, and you can always check out my website at pictonat.com.
Thank you for your time today,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for like tuning into our podcast episode. I mean, we hope you enjoyed it. We had lots of conversations today, but we have so many different episodes with so many different guest speakers on this podcast. So make sure to tune in. We have lots of exciting episodes, but I appreciate you, and I thank you for your time today.
You're most welcome.